Hallo, wie geht's? Wir sind Specular Brettspieler und heute wir haben unsere Top 10 Lieblingsspiele. You understood top 10, didn't you? That's right, we're doing our individual top 10 favorite board game lists.
Current.
Current.
I guess current, because I guess we'll find out later in the year whether that's still the case.
Yeah, hopefully we get a bunch of games played this year so we can trash our current lists.
Yeah, we'll see if any of our top one ever changes. It's going to be very difficult to beat, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, and we'll just kind of roundtable this discussion of our top 10. So yeah, stay tuned.
My number 10 game is...
Okay, we're starting right. Dang. We're not even gonna... Yeah, right. Apparently Max just wants to go right into it. He has other plans apparently today that he needs to get to.
Put my kid to
That's
bed,
more
hang out with
important than
family.
this. That's
I just got back into town, and my wife was like, "You're going over to Ryan's?"
Yeah, you were just with them all 5 days. They can relax.
Basically, Ryan saying he was lonely.
That's right.
Okay, just preemptively looking at my list, I feel like I'm going to have more crossovers with you than Max. I'm thinking 4 with you and
4.
1 with Max.
I'm saying 2 and 2.
Okay?
I'm saying all 10 in the exact order as Keegan.
There is
That's
Max,
no way
not
that's
a single
happening.
one. Those are my 2 guesses.
I guarantee that's not going to be a thing with you and me.
Arkham is on my list.
There's no way. There's definitely some things that are definitely not anywhere near your top 10 on my list.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, maybe 2 with you. Yeah, 2 probably with Max. I think maybe.
I already know that I'm wrong.
Start off strong.
Yeah, so we're all gonna start off just going round table with our 10s. Let's just when we talk about it, we'll give a little explanation of what the game is, in case you haven't heard of it. And we'll start over on my left, Keegan.
Me!
Yes.
Okay, my number 10 is pretty neat. They all are, because that's why they're in the top 10. This game was one of the games that my wife actually ended up loving the first time we played it, and we played it 3 times, I think, that night in a row. And it's Yokohama. Yokohama's my number 10. It's a fun worker placement game that is a bit of a route builder because you have to put assistants down to have your president travel along the route they make to get to a location to take that location's action, and depending on how many pieces of your color you have there, you get more of a certain good, or you get to draw more cards or do certain things. It's just a really solid worker placement game. I think it's my favorite worker placement game.
Really?
Of all my work, yeah, I think so. There was one other worker placement game that I have that is going to be in my honorable mentions later, but this one slightly beats it out.
Okay.
And it also scales pretty well, I think. Like, you and I played it 2-player a lot, and we really like it 2-player. I played it once 4-player, and it sounds like it'd be a mess, but it's so much fun 4-player too.
This game, Yokohama, is probably one of the better scaling games I've ever seen. It's just, especially since nothing fundamentally changes in the game other than the amount of locations based on the number of players, but because there's so many more, as you go up in player count, there's so many more pieces on the board that you have to interact with and I guess avoid or find your route, like you were saying, very differently than it is for a 2-player game.
Yep.
That you're really thinking quite differently the more players that you add to this game.
Yeah, it's good. Not in my top 10. Spoiler.
If you're a person who likes minimum luck too, there's very little luck.
There's very little luck.
There's a display. I don't think you really ever do a blind draw in the game. You usually have options and things to pick from.
Yeah.
And everything's open information. You know what your opponent has. You know what they can probably do. It's a solid puzzle-y worker placement game.
Yeah. Very, very little luck needed
Yep.
So my number 10 is one that I'm trying. Maybe Max has on his list. I have a feeling. Is a heavier on the heavier side game. Teotihuacan. Is probably my favorite of the T games, as we call it, from Daniel Tascini. So this one, it's a rondel style game, but not. No, it's pretty defined as a rondel style game, where you're using your dice, which are kind of like your workers in this place, and you're moving them around the board, and certain actions will give you resources. Some will give you the ability to build up the pyramid, or do the track of the dead, or go up on the what is the other three? The temples. Yeah, the temple tracks.
The worship tracks.
Yeah, and as these dice are moving around, they're getting kind of stronger, quote unquote, and you're trying to kind of combo the amount of dice that you can get at a single location. That, similar to Yokohama, you'll actually get more benefits from having multiple dice at a single location. But it's definitely very thinky, and you really kind of can get screwed with your opponents doing stuff, as if they start placing their dice, their workers on that same location, it starts to get more and more expensive to start doing those actions. But in general, doesn't feel, you're not going to feel really hindered or not, right, with people maybe going to a certain spot, because you do have three, well, at least you start off with 3 dice.
Yep.
So all of them can be moving around, so you not necessarily have to just take one.
And you also got the
location,
option too, if you land on a spot, to not take the location's action, just take cacao, which is good.
Yeah.
So you're never totally snubbed in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's quite a few different strategies that you can actually take, and all of them work pretty well. There are a few expansions to the game. I have not played them yet, but looking forward to playing them.
Yeah, I want to play them too.
And I think there's even another one coming out, as I believe. I haven't quite looked into it, but Teotihuacan, for me, one of Daniel Tascini's better games. There's quite a few, and all of them actually are really, really good. Just this one hits the home for me.
It probably would have been on my list, but it's been dethroned.
Oh, okay.
So
I have a feeling I know what you're talking about.
I'll get to that later, though, because my number 10 greatest game of all time, and the number 10 greatest game. I'm just tired. I need more coffee. The 10th greatest game of all time.
Ever the best ever 10th place
is Grand Austria Hotel.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Pretty good at 3. Don't know that it's great at 4. Don't even want to play it at 4, but 2-player, it is a game I always want to play at 2 players. It just goes really quick. It's really fun. You're trying to manage your hotel better than the other players. There's little abilities you can get by trigger by filling up your hotel, and different assistants that can help you on cards. And I really like games that have like a trap that if you don't do things by a certain round, then you get punished, and this game has that. And it's just a point salad-y, really fun little game, and I want to play it more. I haven't played it in a while, but it's still, whenever I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's such a good game. So it sits at my number 10. Probably used to be a little bit higher. It's probably fallen down a little bit, but yeah, it's a solid little game.
Am I the only one that, I think I'm the only one that actually went through the Kickstarter?
No, I Kickstarted it.
Did
I Kickstarted the expansion, yeah.
I backed out of it.
I went
You
the
guys
full
were getting
Kickstarter,
it.
yeah.
Yep. I think you went with some more add-ons than I did. Did you do the elevator and the dice?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So I'm excited for the Kickstarter to come in a couple months, but
I'm thinking right now it's in manufacturing right now, but
yeah, I'm really excited too, because then we'll actually be playing it more often.
yeah,
That's true.
Get it back to the table. It's been a while.
It's for a game that is pretty heavily reliant on the dice. It's not actually that hindering. Where like I as probably a lot of you have watched with some of our other videos, I have a lot of problem with dice when it comes to the way that they determine your actions. But for this, there's some mitigation, and there's so much that you can be doing with these dice that it's really not that hindering to me that I feel like I just would feel normally might struggle with some of the decisions I need to make with random dice rolling. It really isn't a big problem.
We'll bring it up more later. There's some games on my list.
Something I just noticed too. Mainly because you guys both had a dice game as your number 10. I don't have any dice games on my list.
Oh,
really?
No, I have quite a few.
I don't have. I just noticed. I looked at my listing. I was like, I don't have any die games on my list at all. No, none of my games have like a roll the dice aspect or dice drafting.
I have a couple. Should I just do my number 9? Or are we gonna do this?
Oh my god! I just realized I screwed my list up. I went with number 9 first. Get out of here! Look at it. I screwed up. That's fine.
Now it's your number 10. You can't change it. Now it's stuck.
They're very close, and it was hard to choose. But go ahead, Max. Your number 9.
My number 9 is Isle of Cats. I love Isle of Cats. It's ridiculous. It's got such a silly theme. You're trying to save these cats off this island. I love polyomino games, and this one's just great, and the different ways to... It's just a great card drafting game, but then there's also just the added-on puzzle of trying to put your cats and buy these cats with fish and put them on your board in the right way, and it's just silly. I've never had anybody play it who didn't like it. And yeah, it's a great game. It's got like a family version too if you got kids. I've never played that version, but it's there.
Don't play it.
And I remember watching the playthrough of it because I kickstarted it, and being like, oh no, because like it looked like it was going to be really slow and long. But I played it 4-player and it plays just as good as 2 and 3. I'm even wanting to get the expansion that adds the expansion that adds more players because it plays so smooth at high player counts. It's a great game. So it's one of those games that if you have like 5 or I think it even plays up to 6.
It goes up to 6. I think.
Yeah, it's like you could easily play that game with 5 or 6 people.
Yeah,
I haven't done it, but at 4 players, it's not any different than 3. So I imagine 5 is just the same. So.
I backed it just strictly because there's cats in it. My wife loves cats, and I was like, "This is cute," and we played it, and it was great. Also, it was one of the best managed Kickstarters I ever.
It's the only Kickstarter I've ever gotten that came early.
Yeah,
it came early, a lot early.
It came early. My game also was missing a whole punch board when it came in, and I couldn't play the game for 2 weeks. But I messaged the designer, and he was immediately messaging me back like maybe 30 minutes later. It's like, "Hey, give me your address. I'm sending it to you probably tomorrow." It was great. Yeah.
I love the little cat meeples too.
The cat meeples are
They're
great.
so great. They're so fantastic.
It's a fantastic game. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend it for a little drafting. And it's light, but there's some meat to it too. So
yeah, it's very good.
Number 9, greatest game of all time. Period.
My number 9 / number 10 is Gentes. That's Max. Gentes. Max always says it. Gentes.
Gent, like the music.
It's the Gents.
Gentes.
I got the Gents.
Yeah, so it's just, you're building up a civilization, but you're doing it, you can't really call it a civilization builder, more as like a...
It's worker placement more, isn't it?
No, it's not even worker placement. There's no worker placement in it.
It's a weird mechanic.
Yeah, so
really
essentially you're
it.
building up this civilization, and it's basically your tableau of cards that you are building up, which kind of give you the workers that you needed to build other buildings for your civilization. But what's really unique about this is the actual action selection is a time selection. So when you do an action or something on the board, it costs a certain amount of time. And so obviously the less resources that you may have to pay for a certain action is going to cost more time. But if you want, you could just pay more resources and it costs less time. And you're kind of trying to manage this, trying to get as many actions as you can in without maybe doubling up on too much time or extending yourself, trying to also like unlock additional time. And as well as like getting, I don't know, the cards can give you like various ongoing abilities as you go. And it's interesting the way that like the workers or like they're kind of resources really in the game.
Yeah.
The people basically, it's kind of like it's actually a little bit of a tug of war. There's 3 rows of different types of workers that they can move up but that means you're going to have less of another type of worker, and you're kind of trying to balance between them because certain cards and buildings that you're getting out require quite a few of those different workers.
Yep.
So you have to like get a whole bunch, but then quickly switch them over to get another card out that you may need and have in your hand. And yeah, I think it's that time aspect and the worker management, I guess, with it is really cool.
It's in my top 20.
Top 20.
It's a great game.
I love the deluxe version of it, but it's
beautiful.
TMG. They do fantastic work.
Yep.
So Gentes, one that probably I don't hear many people really talk about, but is an extremely solid game.
Yeah, it's good. Speaking of civilization games, my number 9 is a civilization game, and it's Through the Ages.
Yep.
Let's say innovation.
No. I mean, I love innovation, but it's nowhere near top 10 for me. Through the Ages is unreal good. I'm very
Unreal good.
I was shocked by how much I liked that game because I heard some other, like Paul Grogan talks about how much he loves it, and everyone on Heavy Cardboard talks about how great Through the Ages is, and then I was like, someone's selling it for like $30. I'll pick it up and see what it's like. And then you and I played it. We played through the first 2 eras, I think.
Yeah.
And even then, it was just like, holy shit, this game's great. The rule book's amazing because it teaches you how to play the game while you're playing it. Like, it says, like, this is what all the cards in the Ancient Era and the Era 1 do. And don't read any more rule book until you're done with Era 1. And it teaches you the game really, really nicely. You'd think that the game wouldn't be all that exciting because you see every card every game. But the way the cards come out is insanely important, and that's the variability in the game. Like, you know this card's going to show up eventually, but maybe it doesn't show up at the right time. Like, if you have the expansion, you won't see every leader, you won't see every monument, because you get certain ones in there. But the expansion also lets you see what leaders and what monuments are going to be in the entire game, so you can start thinking ahead, like, so Shakespeare's going to be in this game, and Napoleon's in this game. Is there a strategy I want to work with this guy more or this person more? And you can kind of start panning out, like, when I see him come out, I know I want to buy him.
Yeah.
It's really great at 2-player. I think for me the sweet spot is 3. I think 4 is slightly too long and too much to look around the board. But 3-player adds in wars that you can declare on each other. 2 players, you don't have wars at all. You have conflicts, but not actual wars. The game's awesome. It's really, really cool. If you don't want to buy the game, play it online. All the apps are great for it. They're really, really good. It's on BGA. Works really well on BGA. It's just a really fun game. It's really cool.
We need to play it. I haven't played it yet. I really need to play it.
I think you'd like it.
It's an incredibly satisfying engine building game.
Yeah.
That, like, there's very few games that categorize as engine building that really give the feeling by the end that you're like, yeah, I really did build up an engine. Because one engine sometimes just take a little bit longer to actually get that full satisfying feeling, and this game takes long enough that you're just like, yeah, I built something up here, and it was really cool.
Are there if it's all the same cards every game, are there like optimal strategies, or is it there's so many cards that you can't really?
The game's probably more once you get into like the meta of the game, it becomes more like certain leaders are very good compared to others,
But
and
is
the
it just
leaders.
depending on when they come out?
The leaders can kind of dictate what your strategy is going to be long term, because the thing with the game too is there's like, I haven't played in so long, like 4 or 5 leaders per era, but as a player you can only ever have 1 leader from that era. So if you buy a leader from era 1 and then another era 1 leader comes in, like, oh man, I should have got him instead, too bad, you can't take it.
Okay.
So once you get someone, you are committed to them until the next era comes up.
I really want to play it. I've heard so much
good.
about it. I just, for some reason, you guys just don't invite me to play it. I don't.
That's right. We don't want to play with you.
Chex Games Edition makes solid content. That's probably their best game they have. It's really good.
My number 8.
Yep.
8.
Was that your 8?
That was my number 9.
Well, then don't you do 8?
Oh, well then, yeah, you go ahead. Sorry.
You haven't
I don't know
started
why.
yet.
Yeah, you haven't started yet. We'll go in a
Okay,
circle.
don't gang up on me like this.
Start!
Okay.
Boy!
My number 8 is a worker placement game, and is the best in the West Kingdom series, Architects. This one I've talked about quite a bit. It's for a worker placement. It's extremely basic in terms of how worker placement works in this game, but what's so amazing about it is the ability to steal each other's workers. And so, like worker placements, you're just going to kind of place a guy down, but this one, the more workers you start placing at a location, the more resources you're going to be able to get. But as you start placing more resources down, as you start placing more workers at a certain location, your opponents are going to try to steal them so that they can sell them to the prison and make money off of it. So it's a really interesting tug of war of like, do I risk placing down one more worker to get a whole bunch of resources so that I can build this building that I have in my hand or contribute to the cathedral? And as well as the kind of like the intrigue? No, not the intrigue. The why am I spacing on it?
I just thought of what it was called.
The
nobility track. No?
The virtue track?
Virtue track, there it is.
And, like, you have to play with going up and down with, as you start going down, you're not going to have to pay taxes, so things get a lot easier to build. But you can't go and contribute to the cathedral.
Yep.
And you'll get negative points at the end of the game if you stay there. But if you go up, you'll be able to contribute to the cathedral, which gives you a lot of points at the end of the game, as well as just the track itself giving you points. So yeah, it's simple worker placement is. Just those aspects make it so good.
There's really a lot of good push and pull with that. That I like, and I do really like the push and pull of. I have 5 guys in the forest, getting me wood. So like, I keep just going there because I can get so much resources. But then eventually, I'm a big target. But the other thing I really like about the game, that was one of the things that struck me when I first played it, was like there's not any reset phase, which most worker placement has. Like, okay, shuffle this deck into this and move this thing, and now you're in era 42, and like, you need to pull the blue cards, and you need to read, and now this it just flows and flows and flows, and there's an end game trigger that you don't like quite know. I mean, when it's gonna happen, when it gets triggered, but there's a tension of that of like, I gotta build these 2 buildings now because it's almost towards the end of the game. And sometimes
it always ends up being just like. It's slow going, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. Everyone's
exactly.
like, oh god, the game's over.
Yeah, and I really like that you don't quite know when it's going to end. Like, you could try and end it, but it's like, 3 more things get built and the game's end. I really like that in it. It's a really good game.
Solid.
My number 8 is pretty much interchangeable with my number 7. Do you want to go? Because I can do 8 and 7.
Sure.
At the same time. Because it depends on the day.
Okay. So my number 8, I have sentimental value for this game because I originally had the German edition of this game when my mom visited my family in Germany.
Castles of Burgundy.
No.
And that's higher up.
And
that's higher up.
It is. But
German.
My mom was visiting my family, and her and my grandpa went to a game store together, and my opa asked the worker, what is a very good board game right now that people like? And the worker said, buy this one. And my mom brought it home, and it's Rococo.
I was trying to figure out which one it was.
I have the deluxe edition now as well, but I also refuse to get rid of my old crusty edition of it because it has too much sentimental value to me. Also because I went on such a hard mission to find all the expansions for it, and the week that I got the last expansion I was missing, they announced the fucking reprint. So out of spite, I'm also keeping it. But it is probably the perfect midweight Euro game. I don't think any other midweight game, I don't think is going to be as a perfect midweight game to me as that game is. It has just enough to think about, but it's not overly stressful where you're worrying about a bunch of systems and things interconnecting together. There's some baby resource management. There's a little bit of like deck building. There's a little bit of like area control. It gives you like a nice bite-sized sample of all the things that make games really cool. So if you can play Rococo with someone who's getting into the hobby, and you could say like, what part of the game did you like the best? And then they're like, I like the area control part the best. And you can say, cool, play these games next, because these are all about area control. Or you can say like, I really like the resource management. Here's a bunch of resource management games. It can kind of like, Rococo can kind of swing you into a bunch of different board game directions because of all the stuff that's going on in it, but it does it simply. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
That's another one I really need to play. We haven't played it yet. with the new deluxe.
Yeah, it's
Sitting over there in plastic. Oh no, it's not in plastic. Did you organize it?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
yeah, the deluxe one.
Good for you.
The deluxe one's gorgeous. Like
Almost the Gallerist, Kanban, and Vinhos are still in the plastic. Though.
Yeah.
Rococo is just a really nice deluxe version of it. Now that the deluxe one's out, the old school one is nowhere near as expensive as it used to be. It used to be like $150 for the base game. So if you really want to play Rococo, but you don't want to drop over $100 for the nice version, you could probably find the old one for $50 now, and it's still worth it. The gameplay is exactly the same. Nothing in the gameplay has changed at all. It's just how it looks.
Yeah.
But I think it's a game that any gamer should play at some point.
Can we also just say though, Eco Griffins? What did you do with this new one?
Oh,
What's the organizer? What did you do?
The insert's kind of butt. If you got the Rococo Deluxe Plus edition, the insert sucks. If you got Rococo Deluxe itself, the insert's fine. Because Deluxe Plus, it came with all like the extra dresses, and if you just got Deluxe, it didn't come with those. So
Because all their other ones are great.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
it's
Mads?
fine.
My number 8 is new to. Well, I when I made this list, it wasn't on it before. My next couple games, I don't think were on it before. But my number 8 is Praga Caput Regni.
Ooh.
I really like this game. It's a brain burner. It definitely yeah, I played it with Ryan 2-player a couple times. And it's funny because my number 8 and my number 7 I like for the opposite reasons. I love pretty much everything about it except for there can be this sort of what I've heard other people call dumpster diving for points at the end, where there's some end game scoring tiles in Praga Caput. You're doing a bunch of things, and it's like insanely hard to explain. You're building a bridge, you're building a hunger wall, you're building a cathedral. You're picking everything based off this wheel. You only have like 16 actions in the game or something like that.
Me. You played it the most.
You don't have you don't have a lot of actions in the game. You're getting eggs. Anyway, but it is a very combo-y game where it's like you can combo this to this to this to this to this, and you get this a point, and you get a resource here, and you just gotta keeping track of everything. Like I played it before, and our friend Aiden just sat there with me, didn't play the game, watched me play it solo, but would just sit there and remind me like, oh, you're supposed to get a stone. Oh, you're supposed to get a point. Oh, you're like it was just like I needed a second set of eyes to just help me remember all the things I was supposed to do in the game. But I got Keegan's copy from Keegan, and I think
Keegan's copy from Keegan?
I prefer it solo almost maybe more than playing against somebody. I've played it with the solo. There's some cards you can play that kind of mimic a player. I've played both. I like both of them. And I do like the game with an opponent, but sometimes it feels like maybe they could luck into a scoring tile that just went with their strategy and you didn't. It's okay, it's still a great game, but just playing against yourself solo, that doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to beat your own score. It's just a solid game. However, my number 7 game is Tekhenu, and I've played that solo as well, and I like it, but I like playing that with 2 or 3 players as opposed to playing it solo, which is the opposite.
Yeah.
The opposite, just because it is. Once again, I think of that one. I believe that one you do only get 16 actions in the entire game, and it's a dice. Drafting. There's all these dice around this obelisk, and it's really micromanagey and or maybe not micromanage. You constantly like every 2 turns you have to spin this obelisk and reorder the dice and pull out new dice, and it's really fiddly. There's a lot of upkeep, but it is such a good puzzle. And I pulled it out to play it solo and just like sat there for like 10 minutes and just like looked at my first couple options and what do I do, and this thing's gonna spin, and it can be a slow game, but you're only getting 16 actions in the game, so every action counts in that game and every point matters. So everybody's kind of taking their time, and it is such a great little puzzle. And in that one, it's another mess of a game that's really hard to explain, but you're doing all these different actions, these different god actions, and trying to get points.
It is my out of all the T games, as we're calling them, it's my favorite T game.
Yeah, this one.
You have my favorite one. You had my least favorite one.
Oh, really?
I don't. Teotihuacan's my least favorite one.
But you
Out of the
like
ones-
Teotihuacan more?
I haven't played Teotihuacan yet.
Oh, that you played.
So out of the ones I've played, Teotihuacan's on the bottom.
That was one of my favorites, but I played it a ton. I played it a lot during COVID isolation on my phone, and I really like it. But
Teotihuacan?
Yeah, Teotihuacan. But Tekhenu's just is like a step up. Even just that like added. It just has these couple added things to it that just really make the game so tense, and it is just it is just such a great puzzle to think through. I really like it. I think you need to try it again because you liked it all right, but you didn't love it, right?
Yeah.
I really liked it too. I think that was in my top 5 best games that came out of 2020.
It's really good.
Well, my number 7
Yes.
is an engine builder that is significantly shorter than Through the Ages, but still gives a really nice engine building feel and has a really fun theme that most people go, really? That's
Oh, I know what
it's
this
about
is.
that?
It's a wingspan.
It is Wingspan.
Yeah.
Everyone's always like, it's about what? Birds? Is this okay? But every time I show it to someone, they always love it. And essentially it is just an engine building game. That's the core of it. And it's a shorter game, but it has enough of the engine building that it feels satisfying when playing. I don't feel kind of left out or be like, oh, I didn't get to finish what I did.
I think the length is perfect for what it is.
For what it is perfect. And this is one of the games that I constantly keep buying upgrades for.
I was gonna say, that's probably the most upgradable game ever.
Upgrading this game. I literally just bought two new upgrades: the speckled eggs and really cool like the round track marker that's all wood. But they keep coming out. Every new expansion they come out with is the birds from different continents, and then each expansion comes with the new like different powers that the birds have that kind of whether they're going to be giving you powers when you activate that certain row of birds or at the end of the round, at the end of the game, when someone else does something. So yeah, it's just about simply bringing birds to the different habitats and trying to like combo some of their powers on the cards for when you activate the specific row to kind of like keep building yourself up and get more resources to play more birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's high on my list too. Where is Wingspan?
Don't tell us
Wingspan's like
yet.
my number 13, so
Oh, okay.
it got edged out.
Number 7, right?
Number 7.
My number 7 is a game.
Oh.
It's a mini engine builder, but mostly a drafting game. And it's best at 2 player. And it's Ginkgopolis. I adore Ginkgopolis more than I thought I would. A good chunk of my top 10 games are like, I've liked this more than I thought I was going to like it. It's now that it's reprinted, it's another one of those games I say everyone should play it. If you're a board gamer, you should just try it. It's reprinted now. It's easy to find.
Yeah.
Get it and try it out. You can play up to 4 players, but the reason why I say it's best at 2 is because in the game you have a hand of 4 cards. You will pick 1 card to do 1 of 3 actions with, and then you pass the rest of your hand to your opponent in clockwise order, and you draw an additional card.
This game is so hard to explain without seeing it.
It is.
The game is hard to understand seeing it.
But the reason I like it best at 2 player is because when you're doing the drafting portion, you are handing cards back and forth to each other. So you have an idea of like what could possibly be coming back to you, but you also know exactly the options you're giving your opponent to pick from. And there might be a hand where you're like, all 4 of these cards are good for Ryan. I don't want him to have any of these. So then you drop a little token that lets you refresh your whole hand and just go, hey, you needed all these, didn't you? Well, they're gone now. And in the game, it's also a tile placement game where you're building out these districts. You can build vertically too, which is really cool. And you're building the districts out because there's 3 different colors, and if there's more than 1 building orthogonally adjacent of the same color, it counts as a district, which you can score for. But then also stacking on top of things is great because you can change the color of a tile and totally bisect a district in half and ruin someone's potential scoring for it. It's just a really fun. It goes pretty fast too with 2 player when you know how the game works. It's just a really awesome drafting game where you can get kind of mean mid to late game with it. and
Yeah.
it's fun. Also, hidden information. You don't know how many resources your opponent has. You don't know how many points they have until it gets revealed at the end. It's just a lot of like cool like rules light. As we talked to Hammond on perspective, rules light, but like definitely emerging gameplay. Like the more the game goes on, the more you're thinking about things to do. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We on number 6?
Yeah.
Me number 6?
Okay.
I'd say, looking at my number 876, like it would almost be impossible for me if I had like optimum player count or like optimal setting, like to pick which one would go where. On any given day, it would change. I probably like, but this is the way it fell. And we recently did a Feld month, and this was my number 1 Feld game. So my number 6 game of all time is Bonfire.
Oh wait, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bonfire is
I was
great.
thinking you were gonna say Luna. Like,
No, that's like my number 11, I think. No, it just got pushed out by redoing my list today. I was looking over it and kind of reordered some things. So Luna was number like 11.
Okay.
Honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mention. No, Bonfire is my number 6 game of all time. It's great. It was made probably even better for me by the last gameplay that we had where I did one move and completely screwed Ryan out of like 30 points and won the game.
Possibly one game. One single move.
Was that a 3-player game that we had?
Yeah.
Where I was also doing things that were ruining you the entire game?
It was such a like just like frustrating, like constantly having to like switch gears and like rethink what I was gonna do. And I really like the game. Your gnomes, point salad Feld game. Your gnomes, you're trying to.
They look like tiny Yodas.
They're a moon priestess in this one too. You get to draft gnomes, and it's got this really cool thing which I also like in Tekhenu, where Tekhenu has technology cards, and Bonfire has these gnome cards. And like Keegan says, like every time we flipped over a new one and read what it did, it was like, what?
Yep.
Like that does not feel like that. Like it feels like it's game breaking. And in Bonfire it has that, but in Bonfire it's just all these different puzzles that come together for this like beautiful, just rich gameplay that I really love diving into and just trying to get lost in there and spend 2 hours trying to fight with each other and it's got it, and it has a really fun, almost polyomino-esque little board where that's where you get your actions from, is by putting these tiles together that I'm terrible at, but like it's just such a fun aspect of the game. There's so many things that just click with it that I really like. So
You said
Bonfire.
My favorite Feld one too.
You said
I think it was all
earlier.
3 of our favorite. Oh no,
It's my second favorite.
Yeah,
It's
your
number
second
2.
favorite. But it was Specular Board Games Collective
Number 1, yeah.
Feld game.
What you mentioned about architects that happens in Bonfire, you're like cruising along, you're doing your thing, and then the last like 45 minutes is boom, 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 game's over. It goes so fast at the end.
Yeah, it does. If you're not careful, like the game, your first play, like I remember our first play was like, wait, what? Like it just ended.
Yep. Okay.
Anyway, it ends pretty quick. Like you're cruising through, and you think like you got half the game left, and it's like, no, you got like 15 minutes left. Anyway, so my number 6, Bonfire by Stefan Feld. Probably should we'll put in the description there, although. We haven't been saying who they're by.
My number 6 is a tile laying game that is early.
I'm sorry. I know what it is already.
I think I know too.
That you guys don't. That Max does not care. Doesn't understand for some reason how to play this game. He's a dummy. It's an earlier on game that I played, and I guess it's just nostalgia with it, but made me really love tile laying, and that's Carcassone.
I'm surprised it's still in your top 10.
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of like with Keegan and probably Castles. It's just like it's that early game and nostalgia that kind of led you into other similar games that you really liked, and it just made me really love tile laying. And as much as I don't win often with Carcassone, I still really love it and want to keep playing it, and keep playing with a different expansion. And
didn't Aiden win the last game? It was his
probably.
first game, and he scored like an insane amount of points because when we were building the river, he put like a guy down in a field, and he ended up controlling this huge field.
Yeah.
Like it was literally just like he was like, I don't know, I'm putting this guy down, and it literally won him the game.
Oh my
like
God. It was, but it's so much fun. And you're really excited to see what this 20th anniversary one is about.
And
I don't
you gotta
quite know about
buy
it.
the maps I just told you about.
Oh,
For
yeah,
it,
that's
too.
right. You were telling me about
What
the
is it?
maps on
BGG has promo now. It has these promos that are giant maps of the USA,
Mm-hmm.
the western half and the eastern half, and it has like a weird thing where you put tiles down on the map in certain locations face down, and you put like little point tokens face down on the map too. That when you cover those, you get the point tokens and you get random point values for it, and a
Oh, awesome.
bunch of other weird
Yeah,
stuff with it.
Sounds
So
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's just you're laying down the tiles, putting your little meeples down to get points based on roads and fields and castles.
Yep.
It's pretty simple to get someone into, but it's so much fun. He does not understand.
Scoring fields is stupid.
wait,
You dummy.
I had a huge
Six.
Carcassone phase too with me and my best friend Chris. We used to play
Fools.
a lot of Catan and a lot of Carcassone back to back, early in the day.
Early in the day.
It's alright.
It's number 6.
Mm-hmm.
So mine, this one legitimately is 2 games, but because I can't parse these two, and this is once again do I want a long version of something similar or a short version of something similar? 50% of this Ryan hates, 50% of this Ryan likes. And it's Food Chain Magnate / Great Zimbabwe.
Oh.
And the reason I
Wait,
put
so is this like 5 and 6?
No, this is just 6.
Oh,
I
you
legit
could
couldn't. I
not.
could not because it really to me. I really think Great Zimbabwe is somewhat a food chain light. With there's like different mechanics with like the auctioning at the beginning for turn order, and like you're not making your pyramid of employees and stuff, but it's route building. You got to get to certain markets to get certain things and deliver certain things, and you have to interact with everyone else's market, which is what Food Chain Magnate is, but 2+ hours more. So for me, it really is just like, what mood am I in? What do I want to play? Do I want to play something really long term that I can really get a bunch of stuff going and really like hardcore mess with people, or do I want to play something just as like, we can probably get this under an hour and a half and still have that tense feeling with the game? I can't separate the two. Out of the 3 of us, I'm probably the biggest Splotter fan in general. And these two, for me, out of like their big 6 games, these two are by far the top. They're so good that Max is throwing his stuff around. They're really solid games. They're really expensive, so if you don't have it, don't go out and buy it unless you know you're gonna like it.
But
play someone else's copy
I mean,
first.
Zimbabwe is coming out reprint, so
Yeah.
maybe cheaper.
$80 still.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, their
Because
games are just
yeah.
expensive.
their
in
games are
general.
because it's just 2 guys that do this for fun. It's not their job. This is what they
Yeah.
do in their spare time, and they release a game every 5 years or something. New game this year. Excited about that, so we'll see how that game is.
Still gotta try Great Zimbabwe.
Yeah, we'll play it. It's
Try
good.
Food Chain Magnate.
We'll play with the expansion. The expansion fixes
Yeah.
problems that Ryan doesn't like with it. I can go to my number 5.
Okay.
My number 5 is a game that both of you guys warmed up to after we played it more, and I loved it initially.
Wait.
Ryan knows what this
Right,
is
yeah,
already.
I know it is
I know what it
immediately.
is. I know what it is, but I can't think of it. But I know what it is. Pax.
Yep. Pax Pamir, 2nd edition.
Yes.
This was my first Kickstarter that I ever did and I ever received, and I backed it strictly because Cole's name was on it, and I was like, I like Root. What's this game about? And I didn't look into it at all. I just backed it because his name was on it.
Like we said, that's what people are going to be about with Oath.
Yeah.
Very different game than Root.
Yeah, according to our friend Hammond, it leans more into a PAX game than a Root game. So if you are a person that loves Root and you backed Oath because you want Root 2, not happening. But Pax Pamir, we had our first game was it full 5 or 4? It was you, me, Dan, Jake.
I wasn't there for that
I think
one.
it was just 4 of us.
Just 4 of us. That first 4-player game
Yeah.
was some of the most intense like board game moments I've ever had in gaming ever. That last 45 minutes of us just dead silence staring at the board, and then me going, Jake, I'm betraying you and switching sides, and him going, what? After him and I being on the same team for like an hour, just pissed him off. And also, I was ahead the entire game, and at the very end, Dan fucking wins. Like,
That's right.
because the last round, all your points you get are doubled, and Dan happened to win the final round, double his points, and beat everybody.
Dan.
It's such a cool little game. It really isn't super rules heavy. If you can understand how scoring works, that's the hardest part of the game, is knowing how the scoring thing works. But it's tableau builder / your tableaus are also building a secondary board that connects between players. There's a board in the middle that's area control. You have hand management. You have a fixed economy because you only get a certain amount of money in the game, and that's all the money in the game unless you can pull some more money in. But if you lose those cards, you have to pay more money back out. It's a really tight, thinky game, and I adore it. I think it's such a really clever design. It's solid. I have 2 more PAX games coming in tomorrow. We'll have to play those 2 and see how they stack up. But
We still haven't played PAX Transhumanity.
Nope.
Because I could not figure out how to play that game.
I had PAX Porphyrion and I sold it because I was like, I can't get through this rule book. But PAX Vikings and PAX Renaissance.
I'm gonna have to read these rule books for you guys.
My number 5 is another tile laying, and one we've already said.
Ginkgopolis. Yep.
Ginkgopolis. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Keegan pretty much said it all about this game. I find it's best at 2 players. It gives me that really awesome hate drafting that I love in some games, and it becomes an extremely tense tug of war with that central board of trying to control those districts, and you can really just cut someone's district off, and suddenly you have a whole bunch of points and you took away a whole bunch of their points, and it kind of goes back and forth, and it's a lot of fun because you really do need to then think about I cannot give this card to them. I can't do it. You'll be able to cut off my entire district. So yeah, it's my top 5.
My number 5 is a game that I got semi early. Well, I don't know. I can't remember if I started getting games in 2017 or 18. I can't quite remember. But anyway, I heard of this game and somebody sold it to me because they were like, I can't get it to the table with any of my friends. And I read the rule book, and was like, this game is crazy hard, and I don't know how I'm going to teach this. And I was trying to get all these people to play it, but it was a game that definitely once I got into it kind of early to the hobby for me, and it was one of those games was you can do what in these types of games? It just opened up my eyes to our world of board gaming. That was Scythe.
It's in your top 5.
Yeah, still in the top. Yeah,
okay.
Number 5. It's in the top 5. It was
up top for a while for me, but
still
then I played a whole bunch of games.
It's still one of those games where I'm if I can have it at optimal player counts, I would play it any day. And I think it's partly just, I enjoy the game, but also because there's so many different factions and getting the different factory cards and stuff. It just really does change the game and the encounters that can happen. It is sort of a war game. That's why you can play a game of it and no one ever attacks anybody. Yep. And then you can play a game of it where it's just a brawl. It is one of those games that I prefer to play with people who've played it. If I'm the problem with it for me in the beginning was I was constantly having to teach it to new people, and that's not always the best way to play. But if you can play the game, like I said, optimally, with people that have played it and know the game, it plays so fast. You can be I did my top action, you go, and you're just figuring out your bottom action. But that just the presentation of it, it was just this beautiful game, and then I can upgrade this to down here. Now I can do more things, and just the idea of that in a board game was so crazy to me. I love Scythe. It hasn't moved, it's stayed pretty far up there. I enjoy the puzzle. I enjoy. I've started to get into solo gaming just because, of COVID and stuff a bit. But I do think having, 4, even 5 people with Scythe just trying to kill each other is just such a fun experience. I prefer to play games with people, even if it's my number 2 game, which is you're playing a game with somebody, but you're all basically playing your own game. You don't even look up at each other during the game. But yeah, Scythe is just solid. At this point, I'm sure everybody knows what it is, but if you don't, go look it up.
It's okay.
Yeah. Number 5, game of all time, Scythe.
What's your number 4 of all time?
What's my number 4? I don't know. Let's look. Number 4, game of all time, was probably at one point my number 1. I'd say. It's gone down to number 4. I'm sure that will change in a couple months when the new Kickstarter comes in.
Oh yeah, I figured those.
It's probably a game I've played more than 200 hours of. or more, and that is Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven is just an absolute incredible game, and the only reason why I'd say that it's not higher is just because I played it so much. It was the only game that my crew at the time wanted to play, and I would be buying all these other games. I had stacks of games, and I'd be like, "You guys, please, let's play." No, Gloomhaven for 6 hours today. We played 2 or 3 scenarios in one night, when we first got it, and we just burned through it, and then the expansion, and it's an amazing game. And I'm sure my list is going to change once Frosthaven comes and we start playing that. But yeah, number 4 game, Gloomhaven. It's amazing. It's a dungeon. I'm not even going to try. Not even gonna try. It's a Gloomhaven.
Everyone knows this one now.
Yeah. The 20-pound box of stuff.
Yeah, that was I still have the picture on my phone of when I got it. And I took a picture. I put the seatbelt on it in the car, and I sent a picture to my friend. Was like, "Look at this box!" And I spent I don't even know how many hours organizing. I went and bought Plano boxes and was organizing it. I think I was talking to Ryan about doing an organized party for when Frosthaven comes. All of us glue the insert together because we got the insert for it, and it's such a. That game probably more than any other I've collaborated with people on with cooperatively. Just it does cooperative so well where with the cards and stuff like that you can't, and the way the game's played, you can't tell each other really what to do because you're not really supposed to know what each other can do, or you're not supposed to really say what you can do. So you really got to rely on your team members for it, and it's a lot of fun.
My number 4 is one that I instantly fell in love with when I first played it, and is now one I will never leave my collection, and has such an awesome shelf presence. Gugong.
Oh,
this one. Oh yeah, this box. You don't know what it's like. You can't necessarily read it, but oh my god, it is.
Somebody can.
Beautiful. Yes, I know. But it says Gugong.
Someone's never gonna get rid of it, and I got rid of mine.
Yeah, this one is really unique, where your actions are based on the cards that you have in your hand, specifically the numbers of the card that you have in your hand. You're basically trying to bribe the officials at the different locations on the board in ancient China, and I'm trying to think of how to describe this feeling I get when playing it. It's the little puzzle of waiting to see which cards other people are going to be playing down, and do I need to go to this location while this numbered card is specifically here so that I can do 2 actions, or should I chance it to possibly go over here to beat someone out at something else? And just with the expansion kind of creates it creates more paths of strategies to work through, and I don't know, it's just fantastic.
I had the opposite.
It's such a hard, I don't know how to I just have so much fun playing this.
It's got lots of good tensions in it, and just lots of decisions to make in every turn. And
I had the opposite reaction with you though. The first time I played it, I did not like it that much. I thought I was this is fine, it's okay. Then we played with the expansion, and if I play this with you, since you're the only one that has a copy now, I will not play it without the expansions added in.
Yeah,
at least 2 modules. Specifically, the 0 and the 10 card always have to be in the game now, and then one of the other mods have to be there too.
The palace too.
That's okay, so minimum 3 then. So I think the expansion fixed a lot of things about the game that I just didn't think they were that great, but I agree. It's a really solid, weird worker placement game.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think it just enhanced what was already there more than completely fixing it, because I really like the base game. It's just kind of took what was there, enhanced it, and just made it even better. It didn't. I don't know that it necessarily was broken or was really bad and needed to be fixed, but they just what an expansion should. You just take what is there and just kind of enhance some mechanics that are there, or add something new that doesn't really change the game that needed to be changed.
I think it fixed Jade to an extent, because I think base game
it
gave it a chance.
Yeah.
Because base game you could not go a Jade route, but expansion you could go a J route and win.
Yeah.
I think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
It's my number. It's my number 20. I just looked.
Number 20. Well, It's my number 4 of all time.
It's
Well,
probably
it's okay to be wrong, but I mean,
it's probably somewhere.
yeah,
You're wrong about Merlin, so.
It's probably somewhere
I
up
don't
there
even
for
know
me,
Merlin.
but I mainly traded it off because I'd rather get another game that none of us have, so we can play something else. Since you already have it, we can just play this whenever.
Yeah.
Merlin number 81.
My
I
number
don't even
4.
know how accurate that is. I did that like what was it, like the pub meeple
yeah.
thing where you rate it, and then
Oh,
I went through it and like tweaked a bunch of it, but I guess it's number 81.
Keegan's number 4.
My number 4 is a game I'm really pissed off that I got into because I was like, I can't get into a game like this. I can't do it.
I know what it is.
I can't.
Yeah, we know what it is.
And I did it, and I'm so in the deep end now, and I can't get out, and I don't want any water wingies to help me. Let me drown in the deep end, please. It's fine. Arkham Horror, the card game.
Man, it's climbed up.
It's
that
number
fast.
4 already. I've played it 7 times, I think, now since I've gotten it. And it is just great. I love it. I liked Gloomhaven, that it was such a pain in the ass to get out and set up and do everything. If you don't have like a gaming table, you can just store it underneath. And there's just a lot of stuff to manage. But I like story to it, and it's the kind of co-op game that I like, where it's not like you and I have to work together to do this overarching thing with the game or the game wins. It's like we're co-oping because we need to just progress, but we can still do our own shit. And Arkham feels like all of that, but to me better, and I'm more compelled by this story than I was the Gloomhaven story. And it also does deck building, and I'm a TCG boy at heart, and it just added that back to my life again, which is the reason I didn't want to get into it, because I can't do card games ever again in my life. And
And I'm
now
making it so much worse for you because every time I'm at the store, I'm like, Keegan,
they have Arkham stuff. Do you need anything?
do you need Barkham Horror?
I do
Barkham
want,
Horror.
I want Barkham Horror, but yeah, it's so much fun. Like, just the deck building aspect behind it is great. All the different cards you can get, there's so many cool abilities. Every investigator feels very different than every other investigator, and they're almost all viable. Like, there's maybe 5 investigators, so I just watched some people do a tier list of investigators, that there was 2 specifically, like, these are just garbage, and every other investigator works somehow. There's some that are definitely better than others, but every other investigator has something that is really good about it. There's so much content to it. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to run out of content, and it's not like one of those things with, like, if you replay a scenario that it's going to be a burnout. You can play the same scenario, you might know what's going to happen in the story, but you might get a different ending, and if you don't spoil the endings for yourself, you can play with a different investigator, which really changes how the whole experience feels, as you're playing an entirely different style. There's a lot of cool upgrades for it that I want that are expensive as hell, but I really want
I was
them.
gonna ask you if you pulled the trigger on that yet.
No, because I put it in my cart. It's $438 for all of it.
What?
Yeah, and it's coming from the UK, so if I'm doing it, I want to do one bulk order and not do parts. But yeah, Arkham Horror is so damn good, and I'm mad that I got into it, and I'm really happy about it.
So what's your number 3?
My number 3 is another big boy game with big boy stuff, big lady stuff, all the big stuff. It's Feudum.
Oh boy, yeah.
I love Feudum.
Have we had any crossovers yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan had one.
You had
Ginkgopolis.
Ginkgopolis.
Yeah.
And I know you're gonna have one more.
Yeah. You and I haven't had any though.
No.
Keegan, we might have one more.
You and I for sure have one more.
I think we have 2 more.
No.
Yep.
No.
Maybe. Okay.
No, we don't.
Interesting.
Feudum is like Gugong, where it gives you expansions that are just like little baby things that just add something else into the game. It doesn't change the game at all. It is a big old game that will take a minimum of 50 minutes to teach new players. I've taught this game enough now that the rules are burned into my soul, even though I haven't played it that much, because I wrote a whole cheat sheet for it and color-coded it and everything. I taught the guys at Quackalope how to play this online one night. It's the epitome to me of a sandbox game, because you can legit do anything you want. There's this guild system that's insanely important in the game that you should probably do a little bit in, but every single way to win in this game is a viable strategy. You can focus strictly on guilds and doing guild stuff. You can focus strictly on expansion and being all over the board. You can focus making feudums and attacking people. Like, everything works. It's great. It's one of those games I wish that we just would play more, but it's such a time commitment.
It's a hot mess.
It's a hot mess. There's a
I
bunch of
really like it, but man, it is like
There's
it is frustrating.
there's a bunch of small weird rules, and the board is like gorgeous to look at, but it is definitely form over function.
Yeah.
At points, you kind of have to know where things are, take a Sharpie and color things in to like really make it pop. But the game is such a great disaster to play. It's so much fun. It's really, really, really solid. I don't want to explain. It's like the game's too hard to explain overall. Yeah. But yeah, sandboxy, really pretty to look at. 3-hour commitment. It's great.
Well, my number 3 is Root. Super cute critters in a forest killing each other.
Yay!
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially a race to 30 points where each faction is completely asymmetrical. And the more I played it, the more I loved it, because as you start playing all the different factions, you start to kind of learn them more, and now you're just becoming like a master in each one, and it almost feels like, for me, I don't quite want to play, like I struggle to now start playing with new players because I feel like I know too much about it, that I feel like it's not going to be that fun because I'll just end up dominating. And as I start playing with people who really know it, it definitely starts feeling more of like a competition and like a, right, at like professional level, right? Yeah. Where it's just like you kind of start knowing these different factions, and it really becomes like it becomes noticeably different who does and does not know the faction that they're playing, because when you know it and you can exploit things and trying to like, I really love playing the Eerie and going an entire game without ever turmoiling. Mm-hmm. It's just such a fun challenge that I like putting on myself, and have done it multiple times. And yeah, there's with new expansions always coming out, kind of adjusting some of that meta in the game, and then like, yeah, having fun with the new expansions and the new maps I've constantly loved it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. I like Root, but I'm one of those people that it's like I'm always relearning it. So I'm one of those people that just gets stomped.
Oh yeah. So yeah, for me it's just like each time I come back, I'm like, okay, let me remember my strategy last time. Okay, let me fix that up a bit.
I just don't play it enough. It's good.
I'm not going to say anything yet.
Yeah. My number 3 is Spirit Island. Spirit Island probably has one of the best themes ever of board game history.
I agree with that.
You are playing a spirit that the local natives to the island are trying to call upon to expel the invaders.
The white invaders.
I think they're called colonists, and they are like white pieces, and it's just like, what a fantastic theme! What a like flip on most board game themes of colonizing. The art is incredible. I've only looked into a little bit of like the story, but I mean like there's I guess a lot, even like story to each card and art in the game supposedly. It's well, I was gonna say it's probably one of my favorite cooperatives. According to my top 10, it is my favorite cooperative. It overcomes that same sort of quarterbacking thing that cooperatives have by just making your own things and roles that you have to do in the game so puzzly that you don't even have time to tell other people what to do, because you're trying to think of your strategy so hard. You just go like, well, I can do this. What can you guys do? Because this is the best I can do. Like, and you're all just kind of working together, and it has such a great scale of difficulty. You can just keep pumping the difficulty up to where I'm pretty sure it's impossible in certain difficulties to win, unless you are like draw the exact right cards and you're playing the exact right combo of spirits. Like, you're gonna fail. So I do like that, just like picking randomly some spirits together, and it's just there's so much of the game, especially if you get, which I'm including the Jagged Earth expansion inside of this. There's just infinite amount of playability, I think, or replayability in the game, and it's a solid number 3.
And number 2?
Number 2 was my number 1 for a long time, and then I kind of retweaked things. It's a worker placement game. It's sitting over there, and that is
right in our face.
Feast for Odin. Feast for Odin has been up on my list for a long time. I got it quite a while ago, and I just love It's sort of sandboxy. I mean, it's worker placement with like 60 something different places that you can go to. But I really like the idea of like you can place one worker and you can go fishing and get a fish. But if you place 2 workers, you can go hunting and get deer pelts. And if you do 3, you can go things exponentially get better. So it's like it's pretty easy to teach. Like I've had to teach this game so many times that I'm like each spot it's like, well, I craft this little necklace, but then if I put more guys down, I can craft a big cross. And you're trying to cover. I don't get it, like, in the sense of, like, you have a board and you're, like, burying things or something.
That's what it is?
I think some of it's, like, yeah, you're burying this stuff. Because you have a board that's, like, your field.
Right.
And, like, you're putting stuff on the board.
Like squirrels?
And money?
Burying nuts for the winter?
Yeah, the theme is you're Vikings doing Viking stuff, but there's just so much to do, and there's so many different ways to play, and then it is probably...
partially doing Viking things.
Yeah. Well, farming was Viking-esque, right? Didn't they farm? They never farmed?
That's not what a Viking was. Vikings were warriors.
Yeah, but they had to farm too, right?
Those are the Norsemen.
But when they weren't warrioring, they had to farm, right?
Yes, but we'll talk about this later.
He's wrong.
Anyway,
that's like a soldier.
Yeah,
like
but they have to farm
Marines.
sometimes too to live, right?
But a Marine.
Hey, we're not talking about history. We're talking about
in the off season, they needed to eat.
And okay, so
anyway,
that's not your number
Feast
2.
for Odin. Also, you kind of do need the Norwegians expansion because it's semi-essential. Feast for Odin's okay, it's pretty good, but Norwegians makes it the number 2 game of all time. So highly recommend it. There's so much you can do. There's so many different strategies. It's just a wonderful mess, and I absolutely love it.
My number 2 is another super cute critter one that doesn't have a dark undertone. Everdell, unbelievably fantastic. You're trying to build up the best city in Everdell. It's a worker placement and tableau builder. Another game that I don't win often, but have so much fun playing it because it is a little bit of an engine builder with the tableau that you're creating and just trying to manage staying in each season as long as you can, getting the most you can out of it is just such a fun puzzle I have. And then all the deluxe components that I have, all the meeples and the wooden tree, and I don't know, it's just the whole table presence that it creates I just enjoy it so much every time I play, and one that I always want to keep pulling out, and each expansion kind of adds something a little bit different that changes up from the base that I think right now Probrook's the only one that I'm kind of like, okay. The other ones I've had a lot of fun with, especially Spirecrest, where it just adds these really it just kind of makes the game even more difficult. It adds these crazy weather effects that you can't activate your leaf buildings in this area, and you go, oh damn, how am I gonna do this? It just you go, shit, okay, let me rethink how am I going to do this now.
Cool, animals and stuff, too.
Yeah, they had some super cool animals. It's just
Did you
back
the new stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. But yeah, that's my number 2.
Is that the one you thought was going to be a crossover?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Everdell's great.
My number 2, surprise, Castles of Burgundy.
That's number 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was your number 1.
Nope, so my number 2.
Now I gotta figure out your number 1.
It's been my number 2 for forever.
Oh.
So if you've watched our videos before, you already know my number 2, my number 1. You probably knew that Feudum was number 3, but yeah, Castles is just a great game. It's still my favorite Feld. Bonfire is really high up there for me now, though, too. And sorry, Ryan, but Luna is probably my third favorite Feld. But Castles of Burgundy is a game for me that I legit could just play whenever. If someone says you want to play Castles, I say yes, and I'll play it. And
Keegan, you want to play Castles?
Yep.
All right, let's stop recording and.
I'm down. Let's do it.
We're almost done.
It's a game though too where I also think it's best at 2-player, because if you play at 4 at that max player count, you're gonna see every hex in the game, and I think 2 is more exciting because you're not gonna see everything. So there might be a bonus tile you really want that's just not gonna show up the whole game, which is cool. You have different player boards you can use. There's one board you should never use because it's overpowered. If you give it to someone who knows the game, they will win just because of how the board is set up. There's
a flaw.
It's a flaw. Don't touch it. It's the number 11 board. Cover it out with black paper.
I don't think I've ever played it 2-player.
Black paper.
It's.
I think I played it 2-player on my phone because I have it on my phone, but I've never played it just 2-player with a person. It's still a great game.
That was Cat and my go-to 2-player game for the longest time. It's great. I teach the game to like non-board gamers too, just because I think it's not that hard to get into. You really only do like 4 potential things on your turn. It's super nice. It looks like crap, but plays great.
Yeah. So what's your number 1 as we wrap up here? Yep.
It's
told
real.
you. So we do have. I told you we have 3 crossovers.
We what? We had Root and Ginkgopolis. Oh,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Okay.
I knew that one was coming.
Now I know what it is. Okay. Root. Yeah, Root's my number 1. That's why I didn't say anything when Ryan was talking about it. I love the animals a lot. It's cute. The
Cute, dangerous animals.
The only reason, I don't even think I told you about how I found this game initially. Jamie
sure.
Stegmaier posted a thing on Instagram about it, and it was a
Really?
picture of the marquee. And I was
Okay.
on my honeymoon,
Okay.
and I saw the post, and I was like, ooh, this is cute, and I want it. And the day after we got back from our honeymoon, I called Cat and Mouse, and they had 1 copy left, and I got it. And then I called a game store in Minneapolis, and they had a few copies left of the first expansion, because since they're local boys up in Minnesota, they supplied a bunch of the expansion for them, because I missed the Kickstarter for this, because I had no idea about it.
Oh, did you get into this after I did?
No, I had it before you. You didn't
I got
get
this before the expansion came out.
the Otters one? That expansion came out right away. That was
Did they both come out right?
They came out right away in the first
oh.
Kickstarter. You just couldn't get
Okay.
that expansion for the longest time because
Maybe
it was
that's why, okay.
gone. But one store in Minneapolis had a bunch of copies because they're like, we want to support Cole. And I called it, and they mailed one to me, and it came with all 5 of like the wood cards for the wood things to put your cards in.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a good game. I love the asymmetry in it. Ryan's right. You can, once you start learning the factions, it becomes more of like a meta game where you're not necessarily just thinking about how your faction's going to work, but how you can stop other players' factions from winning. Mainly smack the hell out of the Vagabond.
Yeah, people start attacking the Vagabond.
Always attack the Vagabond. And then, I played this solo for a long time with the Better Bot project that was on BGG that now got implemented into the Clockwork expansion. And I had 25 plays in this game in a month at one point because I played the bot project so much just to test it out and play it a bunch, and it was
I
great.
was like me with Praga. I played Praga 3 times in one night, so just resetting it up.
There's just so much going on with Root. I think if I had to pick one thing about Root that I don't like, it's the end game condition. I don't like the race to 30 that much. I think for the way the game is, I would love if they would do a scenario-based thing at some point where it's like, play with these factions, this is how this faction, almost like Vast. This is how this faction wins, this is how this faction wins, this is how this faction wins. I think that would be a really cool thing to try to implement at some point. Otherwise, it's beautiful. I love this game a lot. I'm super excited for the new expansion and all the stuff to come out. That's my number 1.
My number 1 has already been said, and it's Keegan's 10.
Yep.
Yokohama. Oh my god, this game, like you with castles, anytime if someone to ever say it, I want to play it immediately, and I think it's because it has such a great play from 2 to 4. And this, I guess it's just like this little route strategy thing that's going on in this game of how you have to figure out how to play your guy down and your president down, but also like in getting your workers to like create a path for you, not only one turn from now, but maybe several turns. You start lining up guys. You're like, okay, I know in kind of 3 turns I might want to go to this certain place to get a whole bunch of resources. I just start multiple turns ahead, placing them there, so that by the time I need it, it is going to be a huge move for me. And just searching for those technology cards and kind of like waiting for, like, there's some really awesome ones that you can start building off, and you just go, yeah, no, I need to grab that one because then maybe this one will make it so that I can go to another person's president location and I don't have to worry. Or maybe you get the one that completely breaks the route building where you don't even have to follow your guys. You can just go anywhere that you have guys. And yeah, Yokohama is one that I'll always keep, and I have the upgraded the organizer, the wooden organizer, which is fantastic for it. And yeah, well, it stays in. We'll always play when someone brings it up, or I always want to try to bring it up to someone.
Yep. Good game.
I need to play it again. I haven't played it in a while.
It's solid. Max,
Finish it up here, buddy.
I know what it is.
Bring us home. You do?
I do.
My number 1 game of all time is a little unfortunate because it's kind of hard to get a hold of at the moment. It has been for a while. And it's also kind of weird for me because I'm normally not much of a take-that-y kind of game guy. However, if you can play this game at 5 players and you're okay with politicking and arguing and stabbing each other in the back all game, then Dogs of War is the game for you. When I was first kind of getting into the hobby, I really liked the Game of Thrones board game, but like that game was impossible to get to the table because it took hours and hours and you had to have like the exact right player count, although it's better now that the expansions come out. But Dogs of War was a game you could kind of get that same feeling in way less of the time. It's not my usual style of thing, but it is a very fun tug-of-war game that has a ridiculous production quality to it. I was lucky to get my hands on the Kickstarter stuff, so I've got like the extra factions and stuff, and they're just really fun. If you have the right group of guys and girls and people around to play the game, it's just immense fun to argue and betray and like be like, give me this, give me that, I'll support you here, support you there, and it's got hidden, your mercenaries fighting for different families and you're trying to win by having the most points at the end. I think you convert everything to money at the end, so money is the points.
Yeah,
but
because you have a secret
everything's
win
hidden.
condition, right?
Well,
Like,
you have a certain house you just start off kind of backing, but like that doesn't necessarily matter. You're trying to at the end of each round, the flags are worth a certain amount of points, and the more battles that they win, they go up. If they lose by a significant amount, they can go down, and you can put your guys down to get those flags, and they're worth either plus or minus points at the end of the game. Anyway, it's all like kind of hidden information. There's tactics cards where you can betray each other, but every faction has a unique game-breaking ability. Some might be a little bit better than others, but there's only one faction I don't really care for, and I kind of usually just take it out of the game, which is the yellow faction, where you just get like a gold, I think, for winning a battle or something.
I haven't played the game yet.
You haven't played it? Oh, we need to play it. It's fantastic fun. It's a little bit hard. It's out of print, so it's a little bit hard to get a hold of, but I will play it.
Expensive, right?
I will play it anytime. It's been up on my list for forever, but it probably is partly nostalgia reasons and partly just like it's probably some of my favorite and least favorite gameplay experience. It's probably been some of like my favorite, and then with the wrong group, the game bombs. Like it is really a bummer if you don't have if you have somebody that's like, you just took me out of the game. Like if they take things personally or like don't know how to like speak up and argue. Like no, don't betray me. Like betray him. Like you have to have the right group. But if you do, it is so much fun. So
yeah.
I like it. They had a bunch of cooperative games in a row, and then like the most backstabbing game. But yeah, there it is.
Yeah, so there's all of our top 10s. We'll have to do another one later in the year as we have so many new games we have between us and will be coming throughout the year. That we'll see where that lands later on. Let's see if anything gets bumped down, bumped up.
Do you have any honorable mentions?
Some honorable mentions.
I had 2.
On the Underground, I really love. And trying to think.
I have one. I've only played it once, but I know it's in my top 10 just from having played it once because it is one of the most thematic games I've ever played, and that's War of the Ring. I know that's on my list, and I was supposed to play it last weekend, but I went out of town. So I'm hopefully gonna get another play of that soon, and after a couple plays, I'll know where exactly it's sitting. But like, I know that's gonna bump something out. It is an incredible game. So yeah, that's my honorable mention. Is if I had more plays and actually knew what to bump out, I would. But at this point, something's got to go.
Maybe also Kanban EV. I've played once, but God, I loved it so much.
I think my 2 are Res Arcana and Russian Railroads. Are my 2 honorable mentions. Yep.
Yeah. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. Leave a comment where your top 10 is at the beginning of 2021. 2021.
The beginning, quarter of the way through.
Quarter of the way through now. But yeah, let us know and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.